Have you ever wondered how some direct-to-consumer brands are able to unlock millions every single year from their email marketing channel? Have you ever struggled with email marketing either from a technical perspective, a strategy perspective, a copywriting perspective, or a design perspective, and just generally wondered what you're doing wrong when it comes to email? Well, you're in the right place, because in this full email marketing course, I'm going to be sharing with you the secrets behind how we've been able to generate over $100 million for our clients from their email marketing channels in the last 3.5 years. We will go into absolutely everything, like we said, from a technical perspective, a strategy perspective, copy, design, and more across your flows, your sign-up forms, your campaigns, and all of the technical aspects of setting up your email account properly so you can scale your brand into the 8-figure range and beyond. Now, my name is Connor Sunderland. I'm the co-founder and chief marketing officer of Kensington Media House. We're a premier retention marketing agency for D2C brands in the 7 to 9 figure in yearly revenue range. And together with my business partner, Connor Gallagher, we've been able to drive over $100 million for our direct-to-consumer clients in just the last 3.5 years. We're going to show you the exact methods to grow enormous subscriber lists, convert those subscribers into paying customers, and continue pushing those customers into becoming advocates for the brand, telling other people about the brand, and to continue purchasing throughout their life cycle with you as a customer. So without further ado, let's get into the course. Now, while I've posted some pretty incredible case studies on this channel before, including a guide on how we made one of our clients an additional $1.2 million in just a 5-month period from their email marketing channel, which was lagging up until the point that we began working with them, I still want to show you some extra results here just on the screen. So you can see here this 2-month difference where we were able to add around $316,000 in monthly revenue just from the email marketing channel to this client here. We have another example here where in 5 months we were able to add around $320,000 to this client's revenue just through email marketing, and many more. Now, on top of this, email marketing consistently ranks as one of the highest ROI channels for e-commerce. So according to a report by the Data and Marketing Association, email marketing has an average ROI of 42 to 1, meaning that for every $1 spent on email marketing, businesses can expect an average return of $42. Emails also have higher conversion rates compared to other marketing channels. The average conversion rate for e-commerce email campaigns is around 5.3% according to Monetate's e-commerce quarterly report. And finally, email is an extremely powerful tool for recovering abandoned shopping carts. According to Sales Cycle, cart abandonment emails have an average open rate of 45.1% and a click-through rate of 10.7%, leading to recovered sales that would not have happened otherwise. Now, this course is made for 2 types of people. It's made for e-commerce brands currently using email marketing or looking to begin with email marketing. We worked with over 70 brands and we've figured out what works best in that time. And it's also geared for freelancers or agencies who are working with or looking to work with e-commerce brands and deliver email marketing as a service. We often consult with other agencies to help them out with delivering their service and also with the operations of their businesses, so we know we can help here also. Now, email is quite a complex topic. It's quite a complex service as well. So you need to get set up properly so your deliverability is strong and you don't go to spam. You need to know how to grow your list effectively. You need to understand how to implement automated sequences of emails to send people at the right times, as well as creating marketing calendars and segments to manage your campaign newsletter emails. So if you think it sounds complex now, just remember we haven't even touched on copywriting, design, or email content structures yet, but we will get into all of that stuff. So let's start at the very beginning with picking a software to use. When it comes to e-commerce email marketing, we truly believe that there are only 2 correct options in terms of a software to choose, so you have the most amount of functionality within the platform. Klaviyo is very much the giant of the industry, still the industry leader in everything, including technical setup, the email collection, automation creation, design, campaigns, segmentation, and testing. It's a really great software, and it's what we use for the majority of our clients currently as I record this in May of 2024. Then you also have SendLane, which we use for a lot of our clients now. The amount of clients that we're using SendLane for is increasing quite dramatically. So if you're watching this 6 months down the line or a year down the line, SendLane could well have taken over from Klaviyo at this point. They're an awesome software. The team are fantastic. Their support is the best in the industry. You really can't go wrong with either. We're also one of SendLane's founding agency partners. We were at their event in San Diego, which I'll put a picture up here, in April of 2024, their Partner Palooza event. We're super proud to be partnered with them, and we're a huge fan of the software and the team in particular. So when it comes to selecting your software, you want to have the following functionalities. You want to have easy setup and good support for hiccups. Like we said, SendLane are incredible for that good support. Strong email collection abilities, strong flow creation abilities, strong campaign creation abilities, a good editor to build and design emails in. You want to be a data machine and to be able to make required segments so you know what you're doing with your data and you're able to correctly file all of your customers. And you want to have a real brilliance on the A/B testing side so you're able to understand better over time what's working better on your list. We have 3 main goals within email that we're going to center this whole course around, which are growing the list rapidly, converting people 0 to 1, and then reconverting those people from their first purchase to their second, third, fourth, and even beyond. We're going to go into every category here, such as setting up your account in line with the new Google rules, which come out in 2024, making incredible pop-up forms to collect emails, designing beautiful emails that captivate customers, building 10 specific automated email flows to drive revenue for you at every single stage of the customer journey. We're also going to go through creating a campaign calendar, where we'll also give you a template in the description of this video, which will give you example email campaigns which you can rip yourself. If you pop your email in below at the link in the description, thewizardsofemail.com, we will send that over to you right away. Finally, we'll go through segmentation and list hygiene. We're also going to go through how to do A/B testing across all stages of the account. If you are a newer brand, I would highly recommend SendLane, an awesome platform. If you're maybe a bigger brand and you're already on Klaviyo, you can still stay on that platform. Maybe it's a little bit of a task in order for you to move across, but SendLane is certainly a software for you to keep your eye on regardless, because we're starting to use it for a lot more of our clients. A lot of our bigger clients are really loving the platform. We'll quickly move on now and go into the technical setup to make sure that your sending infrastructure is set up for good deliverability. So what happened earlier on this year in 2024 was that Google introduced updates in terms of their receiving policies for anyone using Gmail. Before, when you were using an email software, you sent through a shared domain where you had the shared reputation of that domain. So you could have 100 brands all using that same sending domain, which could have been send.klaviyomail.com, and that was where you sent through. You were using the reputation of send.klaviyomail.com and not your own sending reputation. So it was a shared reputation where if you had other people who had a good reputation, you would benefit from that. But equally, if you had other people with a bad reputation in that group, you would suffer. The analogy I give here is that let's say you used to share a house with two of your friends and you were a pretty normal driver. You weren't too unsafe. You also weren't driving like an absolute grandmother, but then you also had your friends who were at the other ends of the spectrum. You have one friend who drove like a grandmother, and then you had one friend who drove like a bit of a lunatic. If you guys were sharing that car, the wear and tear on the car and the overall condition of the car would be the average of the three. So within this shared condition of the car, you have your friend who drove like a grandmother, and he sort of drew the short straw, so to speak. The shared almost condition of the car was in the middle of the three, and so if he was just driving his own car, the car would have been in better condition overall. Your friend who drove like a lunatic, he pulls the long straw, because if he were driving his own car, it would be absolutely battered and in dreadful condition. But because you guys drive fairly sensibly, he gets a better conditioned car, and then there's you in the middle who gets roughly what you deserve in terms of the condition of the car. Well, now you're sending from your own sending domain. It's your own branded sending domain where you have email.yourbrandname.com, and as a result, that sending reputation is not in the carpool. It's not in a shared reputation. It is your reputation above all, and it is up to you to manage it and take care of that reputation properly. Cool. So what we're going to do now is show you how to set up a properly branded sending domain, get your DNS settings in order, and then follow an account setup SOP just to make sure that everything is correct. So I have an example account here that's actually hosted in Namecheap. You're going to have a couple of records here which are going to be important. You're going to have your SPF record, you're going to have a DMARC record, you're going to have a DKIM record, and you're going to have some site verification here. Then you're going to be able to put in some of the stuff that Klaviyo is going to require you to put in for your branded sending domain. So this is assuming you have a Google Workspace account. What you can just do here, you can come in, you can search for DKIM, you'll see DKIM authentication, and then you'll get this record here. You can then just copy the record and just copy all of this stuff across into your host, whether it's GoDaddy, Namecheap, or whatever it is. And you can just pop that in there, copy and paste it from Google itself. You're then going to have an exact way of putting in DMARC here, which is going to be this sort of string of text here, and the same thing with SPF. Also, what you're going to have in the description is a full deliverability guide, where if you pop in your email at the link below, we'll send that over to you. It gives you a full setup on this, so you can see the exact formatting of all of the DNS records here. This is just to show you how this should all look in the back end with your SPF, your DMARC, and your DKIM. Once these are all set up, you're then going to want to come into Klaviyo itself and go through how to set up a branded sending domain. Now, there are going to be some more things Klaviyo are going to require you to do. So when you come into your actual account, you're just going to come in here, you're going to go to settings, and what you're going to do is just go to email, you're going to go to domains, and then when you have everything set up correctly, you will have your own sending domain, which is going to be a subdomain. It's going to be email dot or send dot or something like that at the beginning of your actual domain. And you should just see active here to know that that's properly set up. So you're going to do your DNS settings. Remember, you have that doc in the description. Once you pop in your email, we'll be able to fire that over to your email as well. From here, we want to make sure that we're setting up our account properly. So we have this quick Klaviyo account setup SOP here as well. I'm just going to show you a couple of things that you want to do within the account. So when we come back here, first thing we want to do is change our list to single opt-in. So we're just going to come in here. We're just going to go to lists and segments. We're going to find our main list. So we're just going to go lists here. So when we come into this list, what we want to do is we just want to go in here quickly into settings. Once we're in settings, we're just going to come in here to consent. we're just going to make sure that we have things on single opt-in here. I can't tell you how many accounts we've looked through where people have double opt-in, where basically once someone gives their email, they need to receive an email from us that says confirm your subscription. So many people actually drop off at this point. So we just want to make sure that we have our list here on single opt-in. That's super, super important. Next thing we're going to want to do here is set up smart sending and our conversion window. So we're just going to go out here. We're just going to go into settings. We're going to go into email here. And then with our sending preferences, we're just going to put here 16 hours. That's generally a good time to do for smart sending. Sometimes we have even longer than that. Sometimes we have shorter, but 16 hours is a good time to do that. This basically means that if someone has received an email from us in the last 16 hours and we send them another one in the form of a campaign or a flow, we'll skip that person just to make sure they're not getting inundated with emails. We then want to go over to attribution and just have this change to 7 days. That's generally standard we see for a lot of our clients. So 7 days, a good time to do that. And then we're good to go. So our account is now set up. It is ready to rock and we're good to move on with the rest of the guide. Cool. We are now into some of the funner stuff where we're going to go into email collection first and foremost to make sure that you're growing your list really fast. So why is it important to have a good flow of new email subs all the time? Well, this is the fuel for your extremely important pre-purchase automations, and it's also the fuel for your campaigns, because quite often you will see diminishing returns to mailing the same people over and over again. So you just want to make sure that you're getting fresh people into the list and that the overall composition of your list is quite fresh, because that's going to lead to the best outcomes possible. The main way that we're going to grow our list is through a high converting pop-up form. And we're going to do this through 4 affectable factors that we can actually manipulate ourselves. These are going to be the offer that we give them for signing up. It's going to be the timing in terms of when that pop-up actually shows up on the page. It's going to be the design of the pop-up also. So how does it look? How does it appear? How does it convey the messaging across to the customer very simply? Then there's going to be the sequence of events. Within these pop-ups here, you can actually see this being quite optimized. Within the offer, we're trying to strike the balance of conversion rate and profitability. We don't want to be giving up a ton of margin here in the front end just to gain a lot of email subscribers. We want to give up the minimum amount possible while still getting to around a 5% conversion rate. If we can hit that point on the pop-up, we're in a super, super strong spot. So you can see with these pop-ups here, rotating through some different offers, you can see very strong design in terms of showing that offer to them very quickly. So that shows that design element here, just making sure that they know exactly once they see the pop-up what's in it for them. We can see the sequence of the yes, no question here before email. We've actually seen that increase take rates on our sign up forms by at least 20% in every time that we've tried it. Sometimes it's actually double pop-up conversion rates. So that's a really good thing to do there in terms of splitting up that sequence to try and get a small commitment from someone first before they then go into a larger commitment of giving us their email and then potentially their phone number also. You can see that kind of principle coming up here as well with a quick yes, no sort of a thing here, get 10% off, yes or no. Same here with this brand, we can see it here, get 10% off. And then here you can sort of see with these, we're not giving, this email form right away. You can see this principle of splitting up that sequence. It's a really, really powerful tactic here. And you can kind of see this here with a full screen pop-up from Sunwing also. Really, really strong, going through step by step by step. Great way of doing things. When you get all 4 of these nailed, like I said, you want to be hitting around a 5% conversion rate at a minimum on that pop-up. The higher that can go, the better. But that's the gold standard where you're going to have a super profitable email channel if your list is growing at that rate. Considering that your website will probably convert around 1.5% or so, that is a pretty average conversion rate in e-commerce. You're having more than 3 times the amount of people converting who are signing up for your email list, who can then be contacted down the line, get them into our flows, get them into our campaigns, and get them buying over and over again. There are also some other strategies, our favorite of which is pushing email traffic over to the SMS list. You can make a fairly strong assumption that if people like getting your emails, they would probably like getting your texts as well. These are super high intent people, want to give them something. So you can see here, pushing people over to the SMS list from the email side of things, really strong. And if you can grow your SMS list consistently month on month, that's going to massively help you when it comes to crunch periods like Black Friday and sales, because you're going to have so many people who will definitely see your communication in that time period. So follow these 4 principles when it comes to building a strong pop-up. If you can hit that 5% conversion rate, you're in a very strong spot, and we're able to move on to the next part of the course. So the next part is actually talking about email design, and design is extremely important for conveying your brand in the highest status manner possible. We're going to show you some examples here of strong design versus weak design. We're also going to show you how to design a really strong template if you don't have a ton of design resources in-house, if you don't have in-house designers, or you don't have contractors who can help you with that. I'm going to show you how you can design a strong template just yourself for your brand. So a strong email template will follow a structure roughly like the one you can see in front of you, which is that it'll have a header, a strong hero image with a call to action on that hero image before they actually have to scroll. This is called a call to action above the fold, meaning before they have to scroll. We have a body copy section, we have center aligning all elements, we have a final call to action, then having social proof and social links as sort of a fixed block to improve conversions there. So think Trustpilot, think social links such as Instagram and TikTok. Those would be great examples of what I mean by showing social proof here. I'm going to quickly quickly show you here a welcome email redesign that we did and the differences that you can see between this. And you can sort of see a lot of what we just spoke about in practice here. So this is actually converting better. It has a higher click-through rate the last time we checked than this, despite having only a 15% offer versus a 20% offer here. But you can just see here with this sort of more basic design, it kind of needed a bit of a facelift, especially for a very visual brand. You can see here a strong call to action here on the hero image above the fold before they have to scroll. Some really nice center aligned body copy, and also making that discount very clear within this email so people know exactly where it is and it stands out to them. Another strong call to action here, you know, suggesting some of the products, putting the social links down below as well. And you can see here that this is quite design intensive, to be fair. You know, we have a large team of in-house designers. That's how we're able to make these. But I'm also going to show you another example here, you know, within this framework of the one above, as you can kind of see here, with a less design intensive example. This is just if you were maybe a smaller team and you don't have those sort of design resources in-house. So you can sort of see with this email here, you see a strong header, you see some really strong center aligned body copy, you can see 2 strong call to actions here, and then you see a ton of social proof from features in different publications, from the excellent Trustpilot score. You can also see these sort of common objection handlers here. You know, you have free UK delivery over £50, UK next day delivery, you have other payment options here, you have free global delivery over £100, and you have hassle-free returns. These are things which reduce friction on the way to a purchase, and they're things you can actually fix into your design template. I'm now going to quickly design an email template for you in Klaviyo right in front of your eyes, actually within the email builder, so you can see exactly how we think through things, how to actually use that builder, and how to make a strong email design when you don't necessarily have those design capabilities in-house. Email design is something that I would see a lot of brands getting wrong, something that is super, super important. And we're going to run through how you can actually build a template. I'm going to help you build one, you know, right here in Klaviyo. I'm also going to show you a more designed version, which you can kind of take. If you have more resources internally, if you have internal designers, you would be able to do that. If you're not in the position where you have internal designers, we're going to show you how to make an email template which still looks really good, but doesn't really have a lot of those professionally designed elements on there. So it's going to be more of a budget version, but it's going to work super, super well all the same. So we're going to show you both options there and how to make really nice email templates before we can actually get onto our automated emails and onto our campaigns. We're of course going to need to make sure that they look correct first. Okay, so I want to briefly talk about the importance of email design for your brand, just in terms of how you are perceived. So while you can make templates which don't look fantastic, and you can kind of get away with that, and for some brands that's actually almost beneficial. If you're a health brand, for instance, a bit more of a text-based approach will generally work better for you depending on the kind of products that you actually sell. But overall, having elevated design, it just positions the brand nicely. It makes you look like a premium brand, worth listening to, worth purchasing from, and it kind of just increases trust with the customer that we're not, let's say, just starting out. Even if we are, we want to look as though we have a nice aesthetic, that we've worked on this, that we're a reputable brand that they can trust buying from, right? I'm now going to walk through how to make a killer email template, how to kind of look. I'm going to jump in here as well shortly, and I'm going to show you exactly how I would make one from scratch if I didn't have all the resources in the world at my disposal, and just kind of how that should look and how the structure should be right. If you get the structure right, a lot of the other things will fall into place. And while the elevated aesthetic that we're talking about is super beneficial, it's more of a nice to have in the very beginning. So let's talk through all of that here. So here I have an example of a welcome email makeover that we actually did. And here you're kind of seeing the difference in elevated design. This actually has a weaker offer than one on the right and still converted better, higher click-through rate, higher revenue overall. We tried to kind of push down that incentive. I kind of spoke about that in the beginning in terms of growing your list. You want to make sure that you're not giving up too much margin on the front end, because then, you know, if you needed to convert people later on, let's say towards the end of a welcome series, this is something that we're going to talk about in the flow section. You could switch up the offer, you can maybe slightly increase it even. You have that room to do so, and it's just for people who maybe weren't going to buy anyway. It can be that last ditch attempt. But if you're giving away, you know, 20% in the front end, it's just huge. It could really kill your profitability. It's just not something that we would recommend to any of our clients, particularly ones operating at scale. So here you can see a bit of a difference. Genuinely speaking, you would be surprised. This one on the left actually would not do that badly. It's very simple, very to the point, because in a welcome series email, you kind of want to just get to the point. You don't want to belabor the point and, you know, wait and try and do a lot of brand building. In the very first email, they signed up for an offer, just give them the offer and go. Here, this is actually a GIF, which I can't really pull in, but that's why the image looks a little bit screwed up. We can see a call to action button on the hero image. Nice copy, direct and to the point. Give them the offer. This is going to be a dynamic link as well, or a dynamic code, I should say, meaning that you will only get one of this. So this will say welcome 15XH 7, 8 for argument's sake. It's a code just for that particular customer, so we're not going to end up on coupon sites or anything like that, but it's showing up as preview in this preview version here. Nice call to action button at the end. Stretched width in a lot of cases will actually increase your click-through rates. All else being equal, definitely a good thing to test versus, just as you see here, the button just being a bit wider than the text. If you stretch it out to be the full width of the email, it can actually increase the click-through rates quite nicely. We've tested that, and we go here, we have our social links and all that stuff here. So like I'm touching on in this portion up here, we have our header, we have a strong hero image with a call to action, we have the body copy section, we center align all our elements, have that final call to action. We want to put in social proof where we can, maybe our Instagram and our Trustpilot to show off the social links, social proof, that sort of a thing for all of our platforms, and why you should trust us even more and why you should buy from us. You can kind of see here, this is less design intensive, but this one converts really, really, really well in the welcome series, right? So we have our nav bar, we have our hero image. You can see it doesn't have that kind of fancy design, that GIF or, a call to action button on the hero image. That is something I would change, but if you don't have all the resources in the world, then you don't necessarily need to do that. So you can kind of see here, we still have our center aligned elements. We have super strong body copy, which is really good to convert people. Stretch width buttons again, and then you can see here Vogue, Daily Mail, BuzzFeed, okay. You can see Trustpilot, you can see all of these things here, which are why you should buy from us again, like how our delivery works and all the rest of it. And you can see here, this is a really, really nice template, particularly if you're in Europe. Trustpilot is massive for your e-commerce brand. If you have a really good rating on Trustpilot, people will listen to that because it is independent. It's not actually your own reviews on the website. So people like that. It really helps with social proof. So those are 2 examples. You can see here the kind of elevated design that we were sort of talking about. If you don't have the resources to do that, that is okay. That's not going to harm you too much. But now I'm actually going to jump into Klaviyo. We're going to come back. We're actually going to come in here and we're going to make our own little template here, right? So making our template, we come back here to the home page. You have these drop down menus here. We're literally just going to click content. We're going to go into template, right? So what we're going to do here is we would recommend actually making something in Figma if you can, just to get a wireframe, get kind of a concept for what you want. Pull in a couple of emails that you like from other brands, just pull them into, even if it's a Google Doc or into Google Slides, whatever it is, and just kind of get some inspiration for that more so. And then what you can do is you can just come in here, you can just create a blank email and begin to work off of that. We have this here, we have where your logo is going to be, we have our nav bar. Wouldn't really have a nav bar here, so to speak. Personally, I don't really think that they're necessary. You can have that if you want. We have that for some of our clients, it can work well, but just for this case, we won't use a nav bar just yet. And we can come back out here and we can just take a quick look at this and I'll show you what we're looking at. So what we can do, we can just drop an image into here, leave that here. You want to have alt text on the image and also have a link on there. Alt text, let's say it says welcome to the brand. On the image, we just want to say welcome to the brand on the alt text. It's just going to help us for deliverability's sake, just a best practice that you want to be able to do. We have this here, and now I'm just going to pull in a text section. So I'm just going to drag this in here, center align everything. And then because this is going to be our heading, I'm going to pull this in. I'm going to make this heading 1. That's a bit big. Let's go for heading 2. Cool. I like that. Heading 2 looks good. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to drag another text block here because I have this idea in my head of what I want this to look like. Once again, center align all the elements. It's going to make the email read a lot better, particularly on mobile. We're going to talk about that as well. You want to design things mobile first, and a big element of that is having things look good and having them being center aligned for mobile. So we're pulling in more elements here. We'd have a URL in here. We're just going to put some lorem ipsum there. Welcome to brand name. That can just be our headline. This color isn't really going with the red, let's just say, or going with the black, I should say. So let's just say you're going for a red and black aesthetic. We'll go for that. See, we'll go back to button. Now we're going to go full width here, right? So we don't want to go fit to text. We're going to go full width. That's actually going to help the click-through rates, like we said. We can do that for our first button. And we can just have some, bullet points in here. So we go here. Let me go and select bullet points out of here. I'm just going to go into the bulleted list. We're just going to go, let's say, benefit 1, benefit 2, benefit 3 of shopping with us. Just a super short welcome email. Let's change this. Let's say get 10% off with our sort of brand that we're creating here. Now we're going to pull this in here. We're just going to go back to center aligned, and I'm actually just going to space this out so it looks good. We'll leave that at 20 pixels, put that at 20 pixels as well. We're going to come back in here. Okay, so I'm actually going to move these to the second section. Ipsum, welcome to the brand. I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to go lorem ipsum. I'm going to go keep text and style. So we're going to keep that in benefit 1, 2, and 3. That can just be super brief and to the point. Now we can do here for this, we can just go here. We can just duplicate it, drag this here all the way down. Take that. We're just going to go in here. We're going to bang. Go here for social links as well. Twitter, let's say add icon. Oh, lovely. It's pulling that in. Let's go custom. Let's go Instagram. And then let's go add icon. Let's also go TikTok. Brand might want to do. And then maybe one more icon. What else can we pick? Maybe you have a Pinterest there as well. So we can have our social links here at the bottom, just as a best practice once again. Now we can do here as well. So we can put in, let's go for this here again. Center a line. What I'll do, I'll actually just pull in a horizontal rule above here just to kind of break up the email a bit. Let's pull this up to, let's just put this up to heading 3. So this can stay at heading 2, this will stay at heading 3, or even 4. Yeah, I like that. That's a little bit smaller. I'm going to show you something here that we're actually going to do. We'll just pull in a table like this, right? We're going to go for table settings, go for add column here, show them on both, content, leave them all as images, change this to image, change this to image. Then what we could do is, let's say you were featured in publications, so we could go pull this in, drag to upload file, just leave Vogue in there. This isn't going to look brilliant. Just for the sake of this, take this logo, just go in here, take this, looks okay, take another logo, click onto here, take that. So these are not really aligned at all, as you can see, but this is just for demonstrative purposes. As you can see, this is just an example section that you could do within your email template, as we kind of have here, but this brand actually is featured there. We can pull in our Trustpilot score here. We can pull in these elements. If you're doing these as elements, you can just make these as a table. So as well, just pull in your brand colors. You can make it look good. Do not worry too much about that if you're just starting out. But then here as well, for making a super design template, I'm not going to show you that just there in terms of how we do that through using Photoshop and Figma. That would be a whole course in and of itself, and I do want to make a video on that, but for this purpose I just want to show you how you can get off the ground as well here from the beginning. So a quick breather after that, a quick recap in terms of everything that we've covered. So we've covered the background of why email marketing is so important. We've covered what software to use. We've covered the technical setup. We've covered how to grow your list with a strong opt-in form. And now we've covered how to design a super strong email template there also. With all of that taken care of, we are now going to go into your flows setup and what you should be thinking about in terms of the automations that you're going to need within the email account. This is a lot more sort of the fun stuff, and it's something that I'm really excited to share with you. It'll be quite a big section in terms of this course. So let's start with a quick FAQ. What are flows? Well, flows are an automated series of emails which get sent out when someone on your email list takes particular action, such as abandoning a cart, or gains a certain characteristic, such as joining a segment. Their use case is giving customers more touch point and trust on the way to a purchase, improving advertising efficiency, so getting more out of your advertising dollars that you're spending on platforms like Meta, TikTok, and Google, reducing abandoned carts, and automating increasing the conversion rate of your store, including for repeat purchasers. Bit of a different FAQ here, but I have heard this from a couple of people before. They're like, could I not just send campaigns? And in theory, yes, you definitely could, but flows will generally have a higher revenue per recipient when you send them. This means that when someone takes that action, they're kind of showing some level of intent. And as a result, when we send them messaging that sort of speaks to that level of intent, they're far more likely to purchase. This is like when someone abandons a checkout and we call that out and say, hey, we saw that you abandoned your checkout. This will lead to higher conversion rates in those emails because we're sort of showing commitment and consistency, and also we're sending them the right message at the right time because they did abandon a checkout and they're super, super hot in terms of purchasing. So in a $75 AOV store's abandoned checkout flow, we often see $2 per recipient on average, when in a normal campaign send we see around 10 cents per recipient. So do not just rely on campaigns. We're going to be covering some killer flows today, the biggest levers in my eyes, such as the welcome series, the site abandoned, the browse abandoned, the abandoned cart, the abandoned checkout, the post-purchase follow-up series, and the customer win-back flow. So let's get into all of these. We're going to go through 3 things here with all of these flows. So we're going to go through the strategy and principles behind them. We're going to go through their technical structure to actually make that strategy work. And we're also going to go through example emails to fit into that strategy. Strategy is more so kind of how you're thinking about things top down from a bird's eye view, such as flow length, content, incentive strategy, and then also any technical tricks. So that's what I mean when I say strategy. And it is really the most important thing with a lot of your automations, is getting that correct. So let's start with the first flow, which is the welcome series for non-buyers. This is absolutely the most important flow in your entire account. It's a flow that people are going to get when they sign up to receive your email, so it needs to make a good impression on the subscriber. Now, you may think that the only goal of this flow is to educate people, but it actually has 3 distinct functions within. So we want to maximize our early conversions within the flow, we want to brand build within the flow, and we want to scoop up late conversions from the lesser engaged leads as we go. So within that, in terms of making this work from a strategy perspective, we need to bear in mind 4 common pitfalls, which is that oftentimes I see flows inside brands accounts that I speak to every week that are far too short. I see them just selling and not really mixing in any content emails or any branded emails. And then I also see that they don't vary or increase the incentive later on. And finally, they write some very boring copy, which doesn't present their brand in the best light and is really needlessly boring, because I speak to a lot of cool brands and I think a lot of them don't convey their messaging that well. So let's go through how to avoid these mistakes. In terms of being too short, I don't just want to say, hey, use these exact emails in your welcome series, because that doesn't really set the right precedent. I will show you exact emails, but first I want to show you that welcome series content can be super broad. You know, maybe 3.5 years ago when I was beginning in email marketing, I received welcome series emails where I genuinely wondered if they were part of a welcome series or if they were campaign emails. The flows were a little bit off the wall and quite unique. And I realize now how important that was for these brands, particularly in the health space. These were a lot of the brands that I was studying. It made me realize very early on that you can put pretty much anything into a welcome series, provided it either builds status, builds trust, or builds belief within the flow. Status is about positioning your brand correctly. So here we have a couple of ways to do that well: showing where you've been featured in well-known publications, showing a body of work in the right light. So shows you've been featured on, accolades you've received, as you can see here, publications that we've been in here, also with some really, really nice branded copy here, presenting the brand in the right way. And that's how you build status. We then have trust, which is showing ourselves to be reputable right away to our subscribers. So a couple of things that do this are showing how the products are made, reviews, behind the scenes action, and satisfaction guarantees. You can see here with a behind the scenes bit of action here from a brand called Represent. I've bought tons from Represent. I actually don't want to think about how much I've spent with that brand, but you can see here plugging their YouTube and showing, you know, what they're actually doing behind the scenes. Really, really cool for any person who's a real fan of the brand. And then we have here, you know, putting in social proof in the form of Trustpilot into an email. This is something like we saw above in the design section. You can put in as a fixed section within your emails to really improve social proof as we go. So that is how you build trust. And finally, belief. Well, how do we build belief? We do so by demonstration, through results, through comparisons, through testimonials. And you can see here through a comparison here on the left, comparing this brand to other skincare brands. We're showing ourselves in the best light possible and showing how we don't do a lot of the sort of dirty stuff that they do. Finally, here on the right from Peach and Lily, you can see a transformation, and you can see how this is going to really build belief from showing a pretty incredible transformation from this customer from using the products. So that is how you build belief. As well as this, we said that you want to avoid just selling and mix in some content emails. So quite often what I'll see as well with a lot of brands that I speak to is within their welcome series, they actually send pretty much the same 3 or 4 emails in a row, just with slightly different packaging. In order to avoid that, we want to go through here and show you what actually happens from here from when someone joins your list. So they'll come through ads or search or organic or SEO, and they'll come through and they'll start becoming offer blind because they're getting the same email over and over again. The stimulus isn't really changing. So what we want to do is we want to mix up the content within our emails and potentially increase or vary the incentive later on in the flow alongside that content. So going from just 10% off over and over again here, we can go to 10% off, then a letter from the founder, which reminds them that they also have 10% off. We can go into content such as publications that we've been featured in, and then also remind them of that 10%. We can go into a straight sales email then, just saying, hey, your offer is expiring. We can then go into a quiz of what product is right for you, and then go back to a selling email. Here then we could go into a warehouse tour or a behind the scenes email here, which could also point to their offer. Then we could go to a free gift with purchase and change that offer, or go to a 15% for a very limited period of time. This is something that is really strong to do. And as you can see here from a strategy perspective, I wanted to show you the sort of principles behind that before we go into the example emails here, which I want to show you, which are super strong welcome series emails. You can see here from Surreal, you can see great reviews. We can see here a founder's story from this women's boxing brand, which is really, really strong. We can then come down a little bit more and go into a huge benefits email from Athletic Greens. And we can go through here as well, a benefits email from Heyday. So benefits email, super, super strong to do in that welcome series. And you can just see here, you can still plug the offer here at the end of any of these emails, and it's going to work super, super well within the welcome series. A note on increasing that incentive. If you're going to increase it, just make certain that it's only non-buyers who get it. We just want to catch those last few conversions, and we want to make sure that if someone has bought with a weaker offer, we don't want them to get a stronger offer right away. So we just want to make sure that for all the people who are getting this, that they have been taken out of the flow at this stage. That is very important. We then get to making the copy, you know, nice and strong. So there's a full copywriting guide coming later on in the course, but I'll give you some brief pointers here while we're on the topic of the welcome series, which is to keep it fun and brief while still being on brand. If that is not your tone of voice, don't worry, but just keep it as playful and as light as you possibly can to get people introduced. Have one big idea per email. Don't give people tons of different ideas to have in their heads. Just keep all of the emails very directed. And along with that, show different benefits to your products in each email and keep them focused on those individual benefits. And then, as we're going to go through in the copywriting guide, have one or multiple of the 6 elements of persuasion present in each email. So like I said, don't worry, we're going to talk through that in the copywriting section far later on in the course, but it's just something really good to bear in mind for your welcome series. So a quick TLDR, make a longer flow, write engaging copy, vary or increase the incentives later on for people who haven't yet bought, and then mix offer emails with content first emails within there to sort of support those offers and give people a different stimulus over time. If you do all of these, you're going to have a killer welcome series that's going to be working for you 24/7, 365 and driving a ton of revenue, especially later on, recouping that efficiency from what you're going to be spending on advertising platforms. After the welcome series, we get on to a pretty simple flow, which begins our abandoned series of flows. Now, this is of course the site abandoned. So this flow is pretty simple, more of a best practice flow to sort of have in your account. It's not going to be the biggest revenue generator, much like an abandoned checkout flow, for example, but it's just going to be people who have gone onto our website. So they've gone onto the homepage or a collections page. They have not viewed a specific product. They have not added a cart. They have not initiated checkout, and they've not placed an order. So we just want to keep this super simple, keep it one email or so. We just want to move them on to the next stage of the funnel, which is viewing a product, and do so like this. Okay, so you can have something that's, let's say, tap a picture that best represents your personal style, followed by 4 photos. You know, tap the picture you best feel represents your personality, tap the biggest problem you're facing right now. You can also see this nice, simple site abandoned email here if you don't want to go with that really fun, playful style, where it's just pushing people into some of the most popular products here and just trying to get them in a very sort of casual, hands-off sort of way to try and go browsing again on the website. This is a super simple flow to set up, and it takes us on nicely into the browse abandoned flow. So this flow is further down the funnel than site abandoned, and people are at the very next level, which means that they have viewed a product page. This triggers then a viewed product event. So if you're in your Klaviyo account, what you can just do is you can just come down here into metrics. You can just come in here, you can go into viewed product, just come into your account here, and if you see instances like this, then it is working. Just go into the metrics section of your account, and that will show you that this is nice and healthy and functioning. And from here, we want to be bearing in mind what someone is likely thinking at this point in the funnel. So they might be looking at competitors, looking at alternatives, or potentially even Amazon. And as a result, we want to reiterate our benefits and our unique selling points here as much as we can. So we like to push this out to being a little bit longer, around 5 to 7 emails long, using Trojan horse emails. So these are emails that indirectly sell. So this would be, let's say, 3 examples to buy from brand X, which is that we are the customer demographic. Also, you can trust us. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews, and your offer is expiring at the end. Can be that last reason. So we're segueing into selling right at the end of the email. I have a couple of browse abandoned emails put in here as well that you can just put in here. The trigger setup then is as below. Checkout started 0 times since starting the flow, placed order 0 times since starting the flow, added to cart 0 times since starting the flow, has not been in flow in the last 30 days, and has placed order 0 times in the last 30 days also. A quick example that you could sort of see here just in terms of the structure here within the browse abandoned flow is as follows. So on day 0, you could put in a checking us out email just saying, hey, we saw you checking around the site. You then put in your USPs plus a quick incentive just for people who haven't bought before. You put in day 2 of testimonials and people who've had a great experience with the brand. Go through how it works, how your products actually function. Day 6 can be a gift, which is a slight increase for people who haven't yet bought and have never purchased from the brand before. And then day 7 could be a final reminder. So this is just a quick example flow structure that you could follow for the browse abandoned flow in particular. And this is a very high converting flow on the whole. So very important to have this within your account and very important to have it set up properly. This now leads us into some of the funner flows, which are the abandoned cart and the abandoned checkout flow. So these are big revenue drivers and are very, very important as a result. And I want to show you again that here we have a ton of objections which are going to come in to basically prevent someone from buying. So at this point, someone wants to buy, but there is something holding them back. This something is going to be an objection, which can take various forms, such as the price, such as product quality concerns, why buy it now, shipping, returns policy, and also that, do I really want it? Will I have buyer's remorse? Will I regret buying this item? So as a result, within this flow, it's super important to be handling objections and just trying to push them over the line because their mind is nearly made up. So the thing that we want to do with our clients at KMH is to handle objections throughout and ensure that we do so directly. We want to ensure that our technical structure is set up to convert. We want to make sure that our social proof and our risk reversals are present for the customer to try and push them over the line. And you can see with all of these, how these would correspond to all of our objections up here and how they would handle those. Within handling objections, we want to tackle these in both a covert and overt manner. So in each email, you can hit on one of the points above, or alongside that, you can also put in sort of an email like this that's more of an FAQ style email, which goes through all of the reasons that they could potentially not want to buy. We love doing this in plain text. It's a killer email that often works really, really well. And you can also see ways below of how we would do this within all of the emails that we have in the flow. You can see here this myth buster here from Hims, a sexual wellness brand, and you can see how they're going to have a ton of things that they want to actually break down in terms of objections just based on the space that they are in. We can then see here a brand like really hitting that quality angle here, the Sunday Collective, which is really strong here, as you can see with what they're doing within the email, really hammering on that quality angle. And then here, obviously with Better Brand being a food brand, you can see here that they're really hammering on how their products are super clean, how they use precise R&D just to make sure that everything is as clean as possible and as high quality as possible. This is super important in that space as well. So you can see how these brands are knocking down objections on the way to a purchase within that abandoned checkout flow. The technical structure. Now, I haven't mentioned this yet, but this is more of a nerd's flow. Technical structure is the most important thing within an abandoned cart, abandoned checkout flow. Everything's important, but definitely technical structure beats all. So what we want to do is split up the flow to make sure that the right people get the right message. That is the absolute most important part of this whole process. And we do this in two main ways, which are through a free shipping split within the flow and through an order count split within the flow. So when you split up a flow based on the recipient's order value, you can see pretty crazy differences in terms of performance. The reason being is that based on that cart value, we're probably going to have free shipping above that. For most e-commerce brands, you'll probably have some free shipping threshold at $50, $75, $100, potentially even higher. And when we split up the flow based off of this, we're able to give people an incentive that they were going to get anyway. So we are giving them an offer, but we're not really giving them an offer. We see here the free shipping split here on the left. We have 1,708 deliveries, and then we have 3,328 deliveries for the side that doesn't have free shipping. We can see that the revenue per recipient on this group is 3.5 times, a bit over that of the group on the right. We can see here from 5,400 to 3K. It is a huge difference there with basically half of the recipients. So that just goes to show you how powerful this split alone can really be. These people, these are the same emails, but this just mentions that they have free shipping, and you can see what that does. We'll often also split things up based on number of orders. This is for a couple of reasons. So it's to protect margin a little bit more, which I'll explain in just a second. And it's also to communicate to people a little bit more specifically depending on their level of loyalty with us. So with people who have purchased before, they actually don't need very strong incentives in order to buy. They don't need us to go up to a second tier incentive like we could potentially do in the Welcome series and in the Browse Abandoned as well for people who haven't purchased. And as a result, since they'll convert with less of a push, we don't really want to give up more margin than we have to. So for people who haven't purchased before, we're going to try and push them over the line a little bit more aggressively, having a bit of a longer flow, maybe varying that incentive like in the Welcome series, or slightly increasing it if they haven't yet bought. But then for people who have purchased before, we can just start off with no incentive, and then towards the end maybe give them something slight, but we probably don't even need to do that in many cases. So this serves to sort of protect your margins a little bit more, and also we can speak to people and say, hey, we'd like you to come back rather than we'd like you to try. So that language can get a little bit more specific with the customer too. Within the content of these emails then, we do want to bear in mind social proof, which is fortunately a little bit of a simpler part of things. Just pulling in your absolute best reviews where when you've gotten them and seen them, you were like, wow, that is pretty incredible. That is actually not normal. And you can pull those in. You can pull in publications that have featured you and celebrity endorsements. Here we have a killer review. This is a great example of a review which speaks to the real core desire of this target demographic. And then here, fixed social proof, ever present, super important. And like went through in the design portion of this, we can just make this one-off in our email templates, and then it's going to be with us every single time when we create a new email, boosting our conversion rates over time by increasing trust. I'm not going to have time in this exact course to go through the technical structure here, but this is something that you really want to get right. We have a full guide on our channel here, which goes through the exact back end of setting this flow up, goes through setting up the tables inside so you can put in a dynamic product block also. So be sure to go through that guide. Super, super powerful, and it shows you how to set up these flows correctly from both abandoned cart and abandoned checkout. But for the purposes of this course, I just want to summarize here, which is getting your structure right, handling objections correctly, and then using social proof and good content everywhere to try and push people over the line. Okay, we have now crossed the Rubicon over from pre-purchase into post-purchase flows, and as a result, we're going to change tact here a little bit because this flow is quite a bit different to all the flows that we've gone through up until this point. This flow isn't necessarily about driving instant conversions. It's more about assisting the customer journey and pushing for a sale at the correct time, which oftentimes is not right away. There are going to be a couple of more aggressive tactics to drive more conversions too, but those will come on a little bit later on in the video. So at this point, email is more so showing itself as a profitability increasing channel. Repeat orders have a lot less marketing cost attached to them because you don't have that new customer acquisition cost attached to the sale. So this is why it's a massively important part of the account to nail, because it reduces our payback period on marketing dollars and allows us to scale that ad spend a bit harder on the front end through having more net margin at the end of the month. You can see here a couple of cool examples here from a couple of our clients where post-purchase flow is generating just under half of above what the welcome series is actually generating. You can then see another one here that is generating around 12K for one of our clients in a monthly period. We have another flow here generating about $7,000. Another one here, as you can see, generating 4.4K. And then we see here for a couple of our European clients here how their post-purchase flows are doing really, really nicely, getting really nice revenue per recipient. And we know that that's far more incremental revenue that's really driving the brand forward from a profitability perspective. So let's dig into the principles of a strong post-purchase flow that we follow for our clients at KMH. The first thing we want to do is genuinely thank customers. The second thing we want to do is structure that flow properly. The third thing is building the brand story in the customer's mind. We're growing the SMS list then a little bit later on. We're finally going to push for another sale and use soft incentives for loyal customers. So let's dig into all these. One of the things that we never really see brands do is thank customers genuinely after a purchase. This has an enormous effect on future behavior. I even see this with myself. With a lot of the brands that I buy from, I buy quite a bit of stuff online, and it always stands out to me when people actually genuinely thank me for my purchase. So we want to tailor this language depending on your brand's voice, but I do really want to sort of emphasize this point that it's a really powerful thing to do in the beginning of the flow. And this is like we're saying about assisting that customer on the way to their next purchase. It's not about necessarily jumping down their throat and trying to push them into another purchase right away. We can see here from Prima a really strong thank you here. This is more of an anniversary style email, but it still is a really strong one to do. You can see here kind of a plain text email here for someone making their first purchase. This is a great time to use plain text. Plain text is highly underrated in general as a style of email, and definitely post-purchase thanking people is a great time to implement it. We can then see here as well a loyal customer thank you. This is for people who have purchased 4 times and above, and you can see here we just genuinely thank them because this person is so valuable to our brand. They're a huge advocate and they're really the most important people within our ecosystem. So definitely do thank people. Trust me, it goes a long way. People really recognize this. Quite often when you buy from brands, you get a very standoffish sort of robotic order confirmation email that doesn't say thank you or anything like that. And this is a really good way to stand out and get people primed for their next purchase. We then have flow structure. Now, like we touched on in the abandoned cart and abandoned checkout flows, structure here is extremely important. We want to make sure that people get the right message depending on their characteristics. We also want to make sure those messages are sent at the right time to those specific people. We normally like to split this flow up based on 1x buyers, 2x buyers, 3x buyers, 4x and above, and then treat each stream differently in terms of the messages and also those messages timing. So let's go through all of those different streams right now. For 1x buyers, our first goal is to thank people. Like we said, this primes them to buy again, or it's at least the first step in doing that. We don't want to jump down their throats right away because it can actually have the opposite effect and put people off to the point where they'll then never buy from our brand again. So definitely you don't want to necessarily do this unless your repeat customer percentage or a category basically makes it so that you have a low repeat customer percentage, if that makes sense. So let's say if you're in the product category of someone who sells furniture or mattresses or wallets, these are things which are generally difficult to get repeat purchases for because people only need one. As a result, for you, it could make sense to go very hard there on getting people to buy again because you might find that they often don't buy again. So that would be a case where you get more aggressive, but for the vast majority of product categories, you don't really want to do this. After here, we're going to want to brand build and get them more invested in the story. We're going to ideally get their phone number for SMS marketing, and then we're also going to push for a second purchase here. We often do this in a separate flow, and I will show you all of these emails in just a second. I just want to go through the technical structure first. We then have second time buyers. Now, these people are displaying more loyalty. We want to acknowledge that as such. Want to push to increase loyalty here again, and this is where the soft incentives come in by not giving them an incentive right now, but letting them know that if they become a VIP, they can get exclusive offers when they purchase their third time or potentially fourth, depending on how often you get repeat purchasers. If it's quite easy for you to do so, maybe do that at the 4 purchase mark. If it's not so easy for you, maybe at the 3 purchase mark would be a little bit better. And here it gets slightly simpler. So we're going to thank them genuinely. Once again, we're going to then let them know that they can become a VIP if they buy again and all the benefits in terms of offers that'll come with that. And then if they haven't bought, we're going to remind them that they can become a VIP later on in this flow. We then move on to the 3x buyers, where the content gets more simple, where we have another genuine thank you, and then we simply let them into the VIP flow to receive their first offers. And then finally with 4x buyers and above, we just give one super genuine thank you like the one that we saw above, and just acknowledge that they're extremely important to us and try to keep them just buying again and keep them having a positive experience with the brand. The third step here is building the brand story in the customer's mind. Now, this is a point where we want to really reiterate our story and lean on that story. And I'm going to go into this as to why it's so important, because your story is ultimately what's going to build emotional connection with the customer. And this is extremely important, arguably the most important thing in getting people to buy again for many brands. You know, when you have a lot of these more legacy brands like Nike, anything under the LVMH umbrella, these people have legacy because their brands have been around for so long, and they're able to drive emotional connection, which gets people to buy over and over and over again. And it's their legacy that's doing that. Now, for a lot of people in the D2C space, being younger companies on the whole, you're not going to have that legacy, so you can't drive emotional connection that way necessarily. But you have something that these brands don't have, which is that you're going to be communicating to a far more specific segment of the market, while these brands have more of a broad appeal. They go an inch deep but a mile wide, whereas you can go very deep on your narrow segment of the market and communicate in a very emotionally driven way. So you can see from this email here what I mean. You can see a pet brand here. You know, people love their pets. People often spend more on their pets than they will on themselves. Great imagery, great copy that's thanking people genuinely for making their purchase. You can see here, this is just a lovely email to receive after you've purchased. And then see here, this is actually a welcome series email done in plain text, which is super unusual, but I think it's a phenomenal email here from a fashion brand, which would be competing with brands who would be under that LVMH umbrella. And you can see here that they're really driving in with sort of the mission statement of the brand to try and drive that emotional connection over brands that have been around for 70, 80, potentially even 100 years in some cases. Finally, here we see a really nice thank you email here for going with this fragrance brand, still done in a really high status way because of how the brand is positioned, but a really, really nice email also post-purchase. We then go into growing the SMS list. Now, if someone's on your email list and has bought, and they naturally have displayed more intent than someone who's just subscribed to your email list. They're on the list and they've bought. And we know that for this, since they're on our email list and they like the brand, they'll probably like getting our text messages as well. So post-purchase is a great time to sort of promote this to people. We can see here a great example from Everly Well, pushing people over to the SMS list from email. We can see a great one here from Better Brand also. And then finally here from Grazia, we see a really, really nice email here that's sort of acknowledging, hey, you're on our email list. We're sure you'd like getting our text too. This is really, really powerful, pushing people into SMS post-purchase. Don't sleep on this. Really, really good time to do so. And it's just going to slowly grow your list over time on autopilot. And then when it comes to those crunch periods like Black Friday or sales, you're gonna have so many more people in that SMS list that you can then market to who will definitely see your message. They have to open an email in order to read it. With a text message, that just shows up in their phone and they will at least see that you have an offer going on and it will register with them. So definitely focus on this. It's a very good thing to do. Finally, we have pushing for another sale and using those soft incentives like we said, you know, not giving them an incentive now, but saying they will get incentives later on. We can do this mainly by becoming a VIP. Hey, if you become a VIP and you purchase for 3 times or 4 times, you get lots and lots of cool stuff ongoing from us. So definitely be sure to do that. And you can see here a really nice VIP email here from Withings. Really, really strong here. So our conclusion, we want to thank people genuinely, we want to structure the flow properly, we want to build the brand somewhat, we want to push people to sign up for SMS, and we also want to soft incentivize people to become VIPs over time and to continue purchasing from our brand. So that's the post-purchase flow at a super high level. Really, really important one to have figured out in the account so you can drive that revenue post-purchase like we were showing you above at the beginning of the flow. We'll now go into 2 best practice flows, which are going to be the customer win-back flow and the sunset unengaged flow. So you can see here the setup on the customer win-back flow. We normally trigger this somewhere between the 120 and 150 day range after they've placed an order. And it's just making sure that they haven't placed an order since starting this flow. This is just to try and push them back into the fold and get them back purchasing from us. So it'd just be pretty simple. We like I said, 120 days as the start, but just 2 simple emails like a we miss you and are you coming back? So we can see here this flow example, just trying to push them back with a quick offer. And you can see the same thing here with the second email in the flow. And finally, we have the sunset unengaged. Super simple flow. We like to do 1 email. You can see the setup here. So this is when they're added to our highly unengaged segment. This is for people who haven't opened or clicked on our emails in a hell of a long time. We're just trying to sort of almost clickbait them into becoming engaged again and at least opening one of our emails. And we just have here as one of the filters that they haven't opened or clicked an email, because if they do that within the flow with the emails that we're going to send them, that will then pull them back into being an engaged subscriber who has opened an email from us in the last however long. You see with these emails here, slightly clickbaity, and you can just see, you know, if you click onto this email, you'll be put back onto our engaged segment. So if you want to stay on our list, just click on this button right here. Really good email to do just to keep people in the fray. And that is it for flows. We now understand what flows are, we understand how they work, and we understand how to build them. So thank you if you've watched this far. We are now done the flow section of the account, a super bulky area of the course, but a really important area to get right. Once again, if you have any questions on that stuff, drop a comment down below or drop us an email. The information is in the description. But now we're going to move on to an extremely important area of any email account, which is going to be your weekly campaign sends. Now that we have flows out of the way, we are going to walk into the campaign section. So this is going to be a super key area of the account. You can just see why in terms of these dashboards from some of our clients, some of them generating even near $1 million a month just from their campaigns. What is different about campaigns compared to flows is that these are not triggered automatically. These are not triggered by someone, let's say, taking a particular action. They're not triggered by a profile property being updated in someone. These are the sends that we're sending to our newsletter, to the list that we have worked hard to build. We're going to be sending these every single week. Oftentimes we're going to be sending these more than once per week, twice, 3, even 4. Some of our clients sending even 5 campaigns per week, depending on their particular situation. But campaigns are different to flows for a number of reasons, and we're going to dive into those right here. So like we said, these are the one-off sends. Some people call these newsletters, some people call them email blasts. In e-commerce, we're calling these campaigns, and yeah, that's what you should be calling them. So these will roughly make up around 50% of your email revenue, but there is some room for maneuver there. These could make up 60%, 70%. We've seen these be 80% on the higher side, but generally speaking, it being in the kind of 40 to 60% range is what we'd see on average. So yeah, we'll say about 50% of your email revenue. And they're extremely important because what they do is they drive revenue, which is far more obviously incremental than pre-purchase flows. We're going to dive into this in just a second, by the way. They keep your hard-earned buyers engaged with the brand, and they build the brand status in the customer's mind. So we're doing this all the time with the campaign sends that we're actually sending. So we'll dive into all of these three one by one and just show you what exactly we mean. So incrementality. What is incrementality, as we have shown up here? So incrementality is asking, had we not sent or published this email, this ad, this text, this post, would these purchases have happened or not? We can fairly well say that with campaigns that had we not made that send, those purchases would not have happened. These are more so a market taking sort of apparatus. So many things can be attributed correctly or double attributed in e-commerce. So Facebook and the welcome series would be a great example of this in terms of claiming credit for a purchase, but we don't really know which one drove the sale there 100% of the time, especially for our bigger clients. This is a question that we ask all the time. Now, you will never get 100% clear, non-murky data because you're going to be marketing through multiple channels, but post-purchase emails and campaign emails are far more obviously incremental than other marketing communication that we send our customers. So we can say, as we just said, if I did not send that campaign, those sales would not have happened. So when we get metrics like these for our clients, they're quite exciting because these are definitely additional revenue. You're looking at some of these sends here, the metrics generating, nearly 30 grand in some cases, or just these consistent sends as we're seeing here with super, super strong metrics, and just look at the revenue generated off them. This is this consistent machine that's adding to your profitability with purchases that would not have happened otherwise. So it is extremely, extremely important to get this absolutely nailed. Think about it like this when we're thinking about incremental revenue. If you get a blended 2.5x return on advertising dollars, you spend 40% of your overall revenue on advertising. Inherently, your net profit is down 40% on account of those marketing channels. Now, just bear with me for a second because I know this isn't 100% perfect. With email and SMS, the costs are far less. You pay your software bill, most likely an agency bill to have those sales, and it won't even be 5% in a lot of cases. So you have 35% more margin on those purchases. Like we said, it's a crude calculation, but at scale, you want to be thinking this way in terms of incrementality. So that's a quick treatise there on how campaigns help you with that. With the other two things of keeping people engaged and building status, these work very much so together, and I'm going to show you how with campaign types and styles. We would say that there are broadly two campaign types. These have many subcategories, but broadly two, which are evergreen and promotional. An evergreen campaign is a campaign that we can send at any time of year. It's discount free and it can drive revenue. If it has those three characteristics, it is an evergreen campaign. With promotional campaigns, we want to use these quite infrequently. They're going to fit into the following categories in terms of sales, sometimes product releases as well will fall into this category, and then Black Friday. Obviously, with that being sort of like Christmas for e-commerce, I want to factor that as well for our promotional campaigns. We would recommend having at least 80% of your emails not fall into the promotional category because it trains the list incorrectly. And what that basically does is put the list into a position where people will not buy unless there's an offer or a sale going on. We do not want this. This puts us in an extremely weak position because we have to go even further in order to get the same reaction that we used to get. We have to keep pushing the boat out even more, which is killing our margins. So I use this analogy quite often of imagine two people who drink coffee and one person has 4 teaspoons of sugar within their coffee, the other person has none. That person who's used to sweet coffee doesn't want to drink normal coffee because it doesn't give them any sort of dopamine hit, it doesn't give them the satisfaction that they so desire. Whereas if that person who doesn't drink highly sweetened coffee has that other person's coffee, it'll have a huge reaction on them. They're like, oh my God, this is extremely sweet. It might be a very pleasant reaction, it might not, but either way, it gets a very strong reaction out of them. So you don't want to be the person who needs to put 4 teaspoons of sugar into the coffee. You don't want to be the person who needs to push the boat out because you can, let's say, get more sweet if you're not using a lot of sweetness in your coffee, but you can't really go back the other way. It's a far more difficult position to go through. If you're training your people to only buy when there are discounts, well, guess what? They only buy when there are discounts. We don't want to have that sort of positioning as a brand. And remember, we spoke about status here, constant discounts. No better way to absolutely ruin your status as a brand than to be giving constant discounts. So that's just a little thing there on promotional campaigns and evergreen campaigns. So we'll have a full resource with an example calendar and a ton of emails, or email examples below. So watch on for that. But here are some examples in terms of evergreen campaigns. You can do product comparison guides, us versus them. You can do it between your own products as well. You could do how-to guides. You can do, what is something that a lot of your competitors engage in. Let's say they may use a certain ingredient or a certain manufacturing technique that you don't, and that's kind of a differentiating factor. You can kind of compare the two. Behind the scenes, what are you working on? What products are coming out? Even show the warehouse tour, who's featured us, even magazines. We can show like where are we featured, all of our best reviews. We can show this off really nicely here within these, and these are just great evergreen campaign examples. And like I'm saying, you want to be doing these about 80% of the time. So if you have 10 sends in the month, you want to have at least 8 of them be evergreen campaigns. You do not want to be discounting very often. Like I said, it's a very weak position to be in as a brand. I'm going to go into here as well with how to build a calendar. So a calendar can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. Our internal calendars will not necessarily be useful for you because we're managing many brands, and so you may only need one simple calendar if you're managing it for your own brand, or if you've a couple of clients as an agency, you will only need a very simple calendar. So I'm going to share you an example here. You could also use a spreadsheet, by the way. We like having things in Notion because it's a great project management software, and ideally as you're growing your business, you would want to have everything in the one kind of software here. As we record this, we have just gone into June, and as a result, I have made a calendar for June for you guys to go off of. So you can see here that we are now in May, so we'll just move this forward to June. You can see how we would do out an example calendar. And if you look at these are all evergreen campaigns. 4th of July could be some kind of offer. You could do that as a very slight offer. If you're in the United States, that would be a great thing to do. So you can see here, out of all of these, there's only one promotional campaign. This might not even be a promotional campaign, but out of everything here, out of these, let's say 11 campaigns that we're seeing in front of us, or am I correctly? Sorry, out of these 9 campaigns that we are seeing in front of us, only one of them is a promotion. So you can see that we're very much sticking to our kind of evergreen to promotional kind of side of things. So here as well, you can see here that we're doing a lot of evergreen campaigns too. This could be kind of a pushing an offer with letting people know that stock is running low on a certain product, but you don't need to give any offer for that. So this is how you can build out a calendar. Just kind of tag the type of email that it actually is, put in if there's an SMS for it, and then also just put a date on there and just make sure that you can see everything nice and visually here. So within that, you'll kind of get this resource, in the description of this video also, is you can go in here and see kind of evergreen, campaign styles here. So you can see here, we should be doing these weekly. You can see a number of concepts here, and you can see just a ton of examples that we've kind of left here for you guys in terms of helping with your campaigns here. So you can see from a lot of these brands, super nice campaigns on the evergreen side. Have some sales campaigns here. These should be done around quarterly, if even that in many cases. Some people won't even want to sell that much. And you can see these examples here. I'm not going to run into these in too much detail, but you can see with the sales campaign, it's very short and to the point because you have a nice strong offer there. We have product releases here. These are just done ad hoc. There's no real schedule for these necessarily. You can just see these very nicely done. Educational, run through these. These should be weekly and monthly. These would fit into an evergreen campaign. So you can see this is sort of a subcategory of evergreen campaign here of, how to use certain products and so on, how to get the best use out of your products as well. You can see here seasonal examples just on quarterly. This could be ad hoc depending on whether or not you like to do seasonal campaigns, but you can see these here, some really nice emails for you guys to work off. And then I have some miscellaneous campaigns that you can put in here, brand birthday, saying that, a certain product line is closing out. You can just see how these are executed here. If you're able to pull these in, into your calendar here, you'll be able to see that it works extremely nicely. This is why we would recommend putting it in something like Notion or ClickUp, depending on what you use. You can see here nice and visually within the calendar, you can see everything, the type of email, if there's an SMS involved, and the actual time period. So then your campaigns build that out to be 80% evergreen, 20% promotional at the maximum, and just make sure that you have plenty of inspiration to work off of. But with this, you can see that you have plenty of inspiration. If you drop your email into the description below, you'll get all of these resources, by the way. So make sure that you do that at this link right here, and we'll be sure to send those on to you. Outside of having a calendar, some kind of issue that you'll run into is, well, am I sending the right amount of campaigns? How do you actually know that? And I'm going to give you kind of a simple way to actually do that. So we look for the following base metrics to know if we can increase volume. These are 40% plus open rates, 0.6% click-through rates and above, and less than 0.2% unsubscribe rates. You can increase volume with evergreen campaigns if you're seeing these kinds of metrics, and also assuming that revenue is not tanking, let's say from those individual sends. If you have these 4 looking okay, that is the open rates, the click-through rates, the unsubscribe rates, and the revenue associated with those, then you know that you can probably send more, just to make that up with more kind of evergreen campaigns. If you're seeing that your open rates are tanking, your click-through rates are tanking potentially, or your revenue is going down quite a lot, or unsubscribes are shooting up, try to pull that back a little bit. Maybe index a little bit more on value-based campaigns, you know, a lot of educational campaigns, and you'll start to see that, you know, steadily get back into the right position. So you're kind of calibrating here. For certain brands, you can only send 2 a week before that starts shooting up. We have some clients where we're sending 5 per week, legitimately 5 per week, and we're still seeing really strong metrics. This depends a lot on the demographics. It depends on the quality of the emails that you're actually sending. So, you know, who you're sending to and then what you're sending. But if you're seeing these metrics, you can safely assume that you can increase that volume nicely and see more incremental revenue as you go. Another thing that you're going to want to factor in is that of testing. So within your campaigns, you're always going to want to test something every send, just to gain sort of valuable insights about your list. So within the campaigns themselves, you're going to want to test some different things than you'll want to test within your flows. You want to test your send times, you want to test subject lines, hero images, and then heavy design versus more text-based, just to see what kind of content your list actually prefers getting. Within flows, it's a little bit different. You're going to also want to test timing between emails and offers within emails, but these 4 here are also very good to test. For our own clients, as you can see here, we'll just test sometimes even more random things as we go from some of the higher leverage tests, such as testing send times, into some of the lower leverage tests, like even sometimes testing button color for some of our clients, or testing having a heavily designed hero image versus kind of more of a raw lifestyle shot hero image. You can see here testing send time that we have a fairly clear winner here just based on the click-through rate. And you can see here just within your campaigns, especially as your list grows, you want to be learning something every single time from your list. Some of these tests will take a number of campaigns in order for you to decipher, particularly if you're testing content going from more heavy design emails to more text-based emails. That's something that you're kind of going to be leaving play out potentially over the course of months, depending on how big your list is. The bigger your list, the more easily you're going to be able to reach statistical significance in a quicker time frame. So this is definitely one of the more, I suppose, meta tests that you're going to have there. Just seeing, what are your lists like? Are they readers? Are they scanners? Are they something in between? This is something that you want to find out. It's actually something that's surprised us many an occasion, where with one of our clients in particular, with their old agency, this is nearly 2 years ago now that they began with us and are still here. They were doing a lot of heavily design-based emails. They're a health brand, and there's a lot to explain about their products in terms of the unique mechanisms within the ingredients of all of their products. So we moved from having more image-based emails to having more text-based emails. And as a result, over time, we actually just saw click-through rates steadily go up. And we found out, okay, we've been doing a lot of design-based emails, or at least our old agency was doing a lot of design-based emails, but this list is full of readers. And over time, their campaigns revenue as a result has just been growing steadily. Like we talked about, that's just incremental revenue that would not have been there otherwise had we not figured that out. I can't talk about campaigns without touching at least a little bit on segmentation, but this is going to be a super detailed topic depending on the exact brand. So we might do a separate video on that goes into it in a little bit more depth. But basically what you need to know right now for certain, no matter who you are, is that the core segments are as follows. The 14-day engaged all the way up to the 180-day engaged. The way we're kind of defining that is if they've opened an email, clicked an email, active on site, placed an order in the last however many days, and that they're not suppressed for email, or that they can receive marketing now with the new language from Klaviyo. Your VIPs, these are going to be people who've purchased at least 3 times or spent more than 3x AOV in most cases. That's how we'd normally define it. If you're a brand that has a ton of repeat purchases, maybe you want to push that out to 5 times purchasing and 5x AOV. If you're someone who is in a category where you're going to see fewer repeat purchases, you can bring that down. Not suppressed, this is basically can receive marketing. As you can see here, this person can receive marketing. This is your entire list. That's your entire list that can be marketed to. You're unengaged, as you can see here, these are people who've received a ton of emails, haven't engaged in a long time, and are also people who can receive marketing. And bounced email, these are people who've had at least 3 soft bounces in our definition, or at least 1 hard bounce in our definition, and they can also receive marketing. These are the segments that you want to make. These 2, these unengaged and bounced emails, you want to be cleaning these out of your list every single month. And then depending on the engagement that you're seeing, you want to ideally get out to mailing this segment quite often, you know, probably 50% plus of the time, and be seeing 40% plus open rates, like we said, with the metrics that we want to be seeing within the campaigns. If you're doing that, your deliverability is in a super strong spot. If it's not there, something you can do is go back and mail, you know, 14-day engage or even 7-day engage for a couple of campaigns, signal to inbox providers that you're a reputable sender based on the fact that you're going to get super high open and click-through rates in those campaigns. Then you can go back to mailing that big segment. There is more nuance here for a lot of our clients where, you know, we're going to be mailing their win-back opportunities. We're going to be mailing potential purchasers. Here we're going to be going back into their 30-day churn. So people who've placed an order between 180 and 210 days ago, but haven't placed an order since. So for those people, just to even hit them with an offer and see, can we get even a couple more dollars out of that person, because we pay good money to acquire them as a customer. So if we can get even just a little bit more revenue out of those opportunities within the account, it's going to really, really help us. And like we're saying, incremental revenue, it would not have happened otherwise. So it's a huge win if we're able to get more revenue out of that particular segment. So this is what you need to know for now. It doesn't need to be super, super complex, but just make sure that you're segmenting your list properly and that you're not just mailing your entire list all the time, because we see that quite often and it absolutely destroys your deliverability. Within Black Friday, things go out the window a little bit. I'm just going to give you two things here, which is that you're going to really mail this segment most often during then, which is the entire list. You're going to do a couple of things, before then, which we're going to make another video on closer to the time of Black Friday, of how to prep yourself deliverability wise to make sure that you're in a good position. So then when Black Friday comes, you can mail your entire list and see really, really good open rates. And then here as well, you're going to resend to non-openers in that time period as well. For people who haven't opened those emails, you can just resend. In Black Friday, the rules go out the window. You do a cleanup job afterwards, a little bit of a cleanup job before as well to make sure your deliverability is in the right position. But right there, just throw caution to the wind, kind of go for it in that period. We have a little bonus module in here, which of course we're talking a lot about structure and strategy here, but what actually goes into the emails? How do you write these in the proper way? So I'm going to give you a brief crash course here on writing email copy for e-commerce here, and it should really, really help you. So within your email copy, you want to be hitting on some of the core, I suppose, factors or weapons within persuading someone to take a particular action. This is taken from the book Influence by Robert Cialdini. Super, super good book, quick read, would definitely recommend that to you, but I'll give you a short synopsis of it here and how it actually pertains to e-commerce email marketing. You have reciprocity. So essentially, if you do something nice for someone, they'll want to do something nice for you. So if you give someone value in your emails, they're going to be more likely to purchase from you than someone who's just all take. We then have commitment and consistency. Humans have an inbuilt desire to be consistent with what their previous actions have been. So if you sort of call out attention to that, they'll then feel a desire to kind of act in line with their previous actions to give consistency. It's something that we all have inside of ourselves, a commitment and consistency bias, very, very well documented. We then have social proof and authority kind of in the one category there, where we're consensus seeking beings really in a sense as humans. And so if we see that a ton of other people like something or that there are authority figures surrounding it, we're going to be more likely to actually want to be a part of that as well. And it's going to influence us to take a particular action. Liking, if someone likes you, they're going to basically be more susceptible to influence by you. So you can definitely leverage this as a brand. And then scarcity. We want things which are scarce. We want things which other people want. So if we're able to kind of call that out in quite a tasteful way, it's super, super powerful. I'll give you a spoiler and just say that scarcity is probably the most powerful thing in persuading any human being. We think other people want something. If something's scarce, it almost inherently brings in social proof and authority because other people want it. It's also a scarce resource, making us want to act very, very quickly. So we want to do that in a tasteful way, but these are our 6 sort of weapons. How are we going to use each of these? So within reciprocity, the cliff note, we don't want to send boring emails and we don't want to be selling consistently. Then we have commitment to consistency. So we want to segment based on interest level, buyer, clicker, multiple time browser, and speak to that accordingly. Social proof, show a ton of good reviews where we've been featured. Think of Trustpilot, think of influencers who've endorsed us, publications which have endorsed us. Authority, as seen in, that goes back to the publication thing. If there's potentially a professional who endorses us, or if there's a face of the brand who has built in authority at the head of the brand. Liking, you can use a character in your emails, use a little bit of humor so people actually look forward to receiving the emails that you're sending. Scarcity is like directly calling out having low inventory levels, using countdown timers here and there. I do not advocate using fake scarcity. I've seen this be done by brands plenty of times in my own inbox, and I find it very distasteful. Yes, maybe a lot of people will not actually know that it's fake scarcity, but just generally from an ethical basis, not a good thing to do, I would not say. Reciprocity. Think about it this way. If a brand was constantly annoying you every time they contacted you, would you want to buy from them? I would wager that you probably wouldn't. So to avoid being that brand, what we want to do, like we were saying in the campaign section, is actually give them good stuff. Give them good evergreen emails at least 4 times out of 5, like we were saying, at least 80% of the time. And go through some of the campaign examples that I had put above in that section of the video, especially if you pop in your email down below, you'll get that resource. So you'll be able to see everything end to end. And these emails would be the myth about your industry, showing off good press, showing off UGC. So our actual customers using the product. I mean, real UGC of people using our products and enjoying them, specific product features, and then also things like which product is right for you. You could even put a quiz in there if you're using something like Octane, or you actually have a quiz on your website, you can definitely do that. And yeah, these are great evergreen campaigns to do. When selling, you want to be rotating offers as so. So try these actual offers, try different offers and see what works best on your list. So for some people, they respond better to percentage off. Others will respond better to a dollar amount off, some to bundles, some to free gifts, some to free shipping. Test these out and see what actually works works best when you actually are selling. We then have commitment and consistency, which comes down to segmentation and also the strategy within your flows. Remember how in the post-purchase section, we were splitting up the flow based on how many times someone had bought previously. This speaks to commitment and consistency quite a bit. You can see here within a browse abandoned email, we can talk through people who've actually clicked the email but haven't purchased. We're actually show them some lab results. So we're showing that, hey, we know you've some interest in the products. Here's another reason that you may not have bought and why that's actually not a good reason not to buy, because we have everything be third-party tested. This is a very clear example of doing that, but just generally segment your list by how many times they bought, particularly on the post-purchase flow side of things. Talk about coming back to the brand rather than trying the brand. Things like that really helps with conversion. Social proof then. You can use testimonials like the one below as often as possible. Oftentimes actually the less polished these testimonials and reviews are, the better that they actually perform, which is something I've kind of noticed over the years. So here, just use any people who endorse you or any good reviews, just put them everywhere. That's going to really help you. Authority would be using publications we've been featured in, showing that we have great reviews. Once again, there's a little bit of a blurry line between these two, but authority, I would say more so like authority figures as we're seeing below, and then also publications. You can see here, see how good this is for kind of an authority play for this skincare brand, that they have a resident dermatologist here as well who's actually quality checking the products. That's really strong for authority. Liking. This would be using a character. So actually check this out here. Within here, we actually see a lot of people respond to this email and say, hey, Emma, thank you for the email. And it's obviously a little bit funny because it's not actually Emma writing the email, it is us writing the email. But just using a character, it's really good for liking, and you'll often get, quite a lot of responses to that. I would strongly recommend using female characters over male characters, just as an aside, but this is a really good way to get people to like your brand. We then come to scarcity, the last one. And remember, I was saying, use genuine scarcity, do not lie. Please do not lie about this. But you can do things like using, countdown timers, as you can see here. You can just pull in something from countdownmail.com if you want to do that. You can directly call out being low on stock, like the image below. So you can see here, this actually pulls in the exact amount of products that they have left. I don't know how much I believe that, but it is interesting here just to say, hey, we're running out of this now, so definitely act quick. And there we go. That is the whole crash course on copy. So let's move on to the next section. The final thing I want to show you guys is A/B testing and reading data. So within our campaigns and flows, we're going to have different things that are more worthy of being tested than others. In campaigns, this will be things like send times. It'll be subject lines. It'll be using design heavy versus just text emails, just for one of those longer term meta tests that we kind of talked about. Then flows, these are going to be timing of emails. It's going to be subject lines and offers. The main thing I want to say here, unless your traffic is super high, you want to look at things at least on a 30-day slope, unless the results are super obvious. Averages don't show themselves in small data sets. So we want to make sure that we're getting plenty of data before we actually go and test something and draw an inference from that. We want to use reference tests as well from previous tests to help inform us and want to test in future. Just leverage that previous data. Make sure that you're going into things with your eyes open. You're not just blindly testing things when you potentially already know the answer. You want to use Klaviyo and SendLane's inbuilt statistical significance features. These are super good. So just make sure that you use those. And then test things which are sufficiently different to draw information from quickly. We talk about statistical significance. So of course, there's looking at things over a nice long time horizon, but we also want to make sure that as we go into testing, want to test things that are quite different in the beginning and then kind of narrow in our test from there to find what is potentially the best send time, for example. Like we could test going from 9 a.m. versus 7 p.m. and then we see that 5 p.m. or we see 7 p.m. wins. Then we bring that from 9 a.m. up to 12 p.m. and then we still see that 7 p.m. wins. We bring it from 12 p.m. up to 3 p.m. We still see 7 p.m. wins, but not by that much. Then when we bring it up to 5 p.m., all of a sudden it wins. We find that 5 p.m. is our best send time. So you can see there we test something that's quite different and then make it sufficiently less different over time so we can find the absolute winner. Another example here of making sure that things are quite different. Which one here is a good test? Curious versus ever thought you'd be curious about coffee, or fall collection is here, or new fall collection. As you can see here, number one is a better test because it tests short versus long. The subject lines are more different than one another, so it's actually a better test to run. So think like this, formal subject lines versus informal, using emojis versus not, using a from name, so saying Julia from brand name instead of just the brand name, and seeing how that actually works. You want to test things that are sufficiently different and then get more kind of similar over time so you find the absolute winner, essentially. And there you have it. That is the entire email marketing course. We have gone through selecting a software, we've gone through the technical setup within an email account to make sure that you're following all the new regulations that have come in this year, collecting email subscribers. We've gone through creating beautifully designed emails, building out your automated flows from there, building out a full campaign strategy end to end, including a calendar that you guys can take. We have the segmentation of your list as well that we've actually covered too. And we have a full email copywriting guide right there alongside how to run A/B tests and read and interpret data the correct way within your account. So if you enjoyed, make sure that you're following below. We have all of these links in the description. We have our newsletter. We have both the LinkedIns for both of the founders of our agency, Kensington Media House. Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel for more tutorials just like this one. If you sign up to our email list, by the way, you get a ton of free goodies as well. So make sure that you enjoy those too. And we also have the link to this document within that once you sign up with your email at that link below. Finally, we understand that there is a lot that goes into email marketing. We understand that there is a ton of legwork within here. We understand that probably for you, if you're running a large enough brand, that you may not want to do it in-house. If you run a brand doing at least $100,000 a month in sales, you can book in a complimentary consultation with me personally, where we can go through all the roadblocks you may be facing, especially when it comes to email marketing. We can discuss how potentially our systems could help you and what everything like that can look like. And you can do that at this link here within the doc. You can also book on our website, which is in the links in the description. It'll be a super chill conversation. We turn away a lot of the businesses that we speak to because either they have a good in-house team, they're either too small for us, or for other reasons where we think it may not be a match. So be a super chill chat. Would love to speak to you. Always love speaking to interesting founders who are running cool brands, and just see if there's any way that we can potentially be aligned. Finally, if you've watched this far, thank you so much for watching until the very end of the course. We have those links in the description. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We look forward to seeing you around.